Yes. You'd never heard of it. Right. Yeah. What do I think about it, and do I do anything? I'll answer the second question first. No. Uh, Not anything particular, other than, continuing regular church attendance and times of fellowship with other believers in small group and with friends, as well as at worship services. But the general principle here, Brandon, is 1 Corinthians 14:26. Let all things be done for building up or edification. And if the liturgy that people use is faithful to Scripture and they find it helpful, then I see no harm in that. It's just an argument based on are the results positive or negative. I know it can become repetitious, and there's rote repetition without thinking of it, but that's not the way the system is supposed to function. And I have to say, especially the older forms of the Book of Common Prayer in the Church of England, I think maybe the 1921 or 1922 edition and earlier, there is immense value in many of those prayers of confession and adoration, and they're so deeply biblical, filled with allusions to Scripture one after the other, that when evangelicals first begin, who haven't been part of the Church of England or the Anglican or Episcopalian Church, they first begin to read them, they find that they become a vehicle for effective prayer and praise, and so I'm thankful for that. But what is helpful. That's Paul's rule for guiding worship in the Corinthian church. Let all things be done for building up or for edification. And so if it's helpful to people and it's not contrary to Scripture, then I think fine, that's great. I should say one other thing, Brandan. Last year at the Evangelical Theological Society annual conference of professors of Bible and theology, national conference, there was a panel discussion of some former members of evangelical churches like Baptist churches or Bible churches or Evangelical Free or other Southern Baptist or whatever. There was a panel of former members of kind of central evangelical denominations who had shifted and become Greek Orthodox or Roman Catholic, or in one case Anglican. And the common theme was they failed to sense regularly, to have regularly a sense of being in the presence of God in worship service. And it reminded me when I was a child in a Baptist church where I grew up in northern Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Even growing up as a young elementary school child, there were 2 times during the regular worship services of that church that I felt a nearness to God. One was the long prayer by the pastor, the pastoral prayer on Sunday morning, where he would pray for the needs of the congregation. I don't know if it was 5 or 10 minutes, but it was long, and I had my head bowed and my eyes closed, and I felt God's presence there. I think we've missed some of that. And another time was at the Lord's Supper, where it was a time of reverence, and there was a stillness and an opportunity for people to be still and reflect on their relationship to God and allow God to work in their lives. And I think those times, and I could say later when we became part of a vineyard church, there were times of deep reverence and stillness in the worship services. Maybe a song that would repeat one more time slowly without instruments. And maybe there'd be a pause of silence at the end of the worship, at the end of the song, where God was really working in people's hearts, and they were in what people used to call doing business with God, or having interaction with God personally about things in their lives, things in their hearts. That sense of stillness and reverence in the presence of God. If we lose that, we're losing the opportunity to fulfill and meet the primary reason why people come to church. They want to know God. And that can't be neglected with just teaching and singing that's kind of, what should I say? I mean, I don't want to criticize any kinds of music, but, singing that seems like the worship leaders are more worshiping at the congregation rather than bringing them into the presence of God. Performing rather than worshiping and inviting the congregation to join them. Is that making sense? So I would say to young pastors or worship leaders or ministry leaders, be sure that you are incorporating into the weekly meeting of the church times of deep reverence and stillness in the presence of God. We need that. I'm not going to get into